My dear friends, I'm operator Starsky reporting on day 1181 of Russia's 3-day blitzkrieg. Let's talk about the recent updates from the battlefield, Putin's saber-rattling, Ukrainian drones hitting orcs in the Black Sea, and political situation in Poland and Romania. My dear friends, this is the Frontline Focus. Let's roll. On 17th-18th of May, Russia decided to set a world record, not for military success, of course, but for the biggest waste of Russian and Iranian plastic and duct tape in one night. The Russian terrorists launched 273 Shahids and decoy drones at Ukraine. Of those, 88 were shot down by Ukrainian air defenses, and the rest, well, I imagine a few found their way into farmers' fields, one probably woke up a fish in Dnipro, and the rest exploded impressively on empty ground. Congratulations, Kremlin, you've created the world's most expensive mosquito infestation. Putin gave an interview before his big phone call with Trump on 19th of May, which is today. He said Russia is prepared to continue the war to its logical conclusion, which is so funny when you think about it, because if logic had anything to do with Putin, this war would not have started in the first place. Also, according to Ukrainian intel, Russia's latest drone upgrade is called the Geraň 3. It's equipped with a turbojet engine and a bigger warhead to kill more people. We can now expect terror Russian drones that fly just a bit faster, which means that they will be getting shot down slightly sooner. But despite the fireworks show Ukraine's air defenses held up. Again, we are still standing, still fighting, and still making jokes, while Russia burns through its drone budget faster than a Moscow oligarch in Monaco casino before they were banned from going there. Ukrainian intelligence reports that Russia is planning to test an intercontinental ballistic missile on the same day when the phone call between Putin and Trump takes place, because nothing says let's talk peace like launching a missile capable of global destruction. The European leaders are scrambling to influence Trump's stance. They emphasize the necessity of an unconditional ceasefire and warn of further sanctions if Russia fails to engage seriously. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Zelensky is meeting with US officials to reiterate Ukraine's commitment to real diplomacy. While Russian terrorists are testing their super weapon, let's remind ourselves about their previous attempt, because it flopped harder than a Netflix remake of a Soviet soap opera. We're talking about the mighty Russian ICBM Sarmat, also known as Satan II, that failed its launch in 2024. That's right, my friends, the missile didn't reach orbit, it didn't reach Ukraine, it didn't even reach the end of its underground silo. Instead, it literally exploded before it even got airborne, kind of like Russian economy. The Russians called it a partial failure, which is Kremlin speak for we're just gonna pretend it didn't happen and Photoshop it into success later. But of course, none of this will stop the current theatrics, as Putin dials Trump on his red phone, which probably still has a rotary dial. He's hoping that his saber rattling will help him look less like a war criminal and more like a misunderstood Bond villain. Not this time, Vlad, not this time. According to the Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, a lovely firework display took place over a Russian-occupied gas rig near Crimea. Among the special gifts delivered were a Neva radar station, which is basically Russia's version of Ring doorbell cam, but for NATO ships, some storage facilities likely containing either stolen Ukrainian copper wire or expired canned meat, and a living module where Russian troops were probably playing cards, drinking vodka, and pretend their navy still works. This very rig was stolen by Russia back in 2015, and since the start of the full-scale invasion, it's been used as a makeshift military base. So the SBU knocked on the door with their drones, and Russians opened it with their phases, which marks yet another episode in the long-running series called Things Russia Thought They Owned but actually don't. Other episodes include Snake Island, the Moskva cruiser, and every town the Russians had to withdraw from under the phrase strategic regrouping, also known as running away. If you are a Russian soldier wondering why your fancy raiders keep exploding and why every platform you squat on becomes a target and why your famous Black Sea fleet doesn't work anymore, maybe it's time to just go home. Finland, our legendary neighbor to the north, has been observing some peculiar activities across its eastern border. Satellite images revealed that Russia is engaging in what can only be described as real-life game of risk, setting up tents and moving pieces around as if preparing for a grand strategy, because nothing says peace like concentrating Russian military vehicles and personnel on the border. By the way, Ukraine has already witnessed something like that in 2021 and 2022. In particular, at the Kamenka military base, over 100 new tents emerged like mushrooms after a rainstorm. It was reported that the Russian invaders are constructing storage facilities. Also, growing activity was spotted on the previously abandoned helicopter base, and the Finnish military intelligence estimated that Russia will need about 5 years to build up its forces to a level that could pose a significant threat. This slow build-up suggests that Russia is playing the long game, perhaps hoping that the world will be too distracted by other crises to notice that. And of course, it's another indication of Russian terrorists not working towards peace at all. Dear friends, Russia wants war. Please always remember that. Romania's presidential elections concluded with centrist Dan defeating far-right nationalist Simeon, securing over 54% of the vote. Dan, known for his pro-European Union stance and anti-corruption efforts, managed to rally support despite Simeon's initial lead in the first round. Simeon, who had previously expressed skepticism towards supporting Ukraine, is known in Romania for flirting with nationalist rhetoric and associations with disqualified candidates linked to Kremlin. I can say that Dan's victory was met with relief across Europe, signaling Romania's continued commitment to Western alliances and support for Ukraine. Romania's reaffirmed pro-European direction ensures continued support both militarily and diplomatically. Poland's pending decision will either reinforce this support or introduce new challenges. In the meantime, my dear friends and family, I wish you all a beautiful day. Please subscribe to stay informed about the most important updates and share this content to help Ukraine be heard. I'll see you in the commentaries, and don't forget that laughing at your enemy's stupidity is cheaper than therapy. I'm Operator Starsky. As always, be safe.